This is an 11 Alive special presentation, Voices for Equality, celebrating AAPI Heritage Month.
Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month.
My people, my family, I don't think they know that their stories matter.
Share about our stories and humanize our people.
History, hope, courage, and learning to cope.
Admitting that you're hurting is not something that is given room for a lot of Asian cultures.
Overcoming challenges of feeling less than.
I am greater than stereotypes.
On a journey to feel greater than any obstacle. AAPI, more than 50 ethnicities.
Bypassing I'm Asian American, but really honing in on my specific individual identity.
United as one.
I am greater together when we are community.
Greater together.
Welcome to a special edition of Voices for Equality, Greater Together. As we celebrate AAPI Heritage Month throughout the month of May, I'm your host, Naima Abdullahi, Chief Culture Correspondent for 11 Alive News. For the next half hour, we'll highlight and amplify Asian American Pacific Islander voices right here in Metro Atlanta as we explore the diverse history, cultures, entrepreneurship, arts, and the movement to create a sense of belonging. Let's begin with that, the sense of belonging. In our first report, we show you how that involves addressing hatred, combating racism, and overcoming feeling less than.
We begin with breaking news tonight.
Where do we even begin? A simple question that can determine where we go from here.
The sheriff's office says it's investigating a shooting at a massage.
If we start with March 16, 2021,
Breaking news tonight, a violent night across the area. A total
when
of
8 people, including 6 Asian women, were killed in shootings at 3 Metro Atlanta spas, the conversation can focus on legislation.
You have to recognize that you're in it for the long game.
Stop Asian hate!
If we start with the Stop Asian Hate initiative, we can examine generational racism and racial injustice towards AAPI communities. But if the conversation is about the emotional journey, the weight of the toll that's carried, and what support can look like,
Dawn is my first name.
I'm Jeremy Tao.
well, that's where Korean-American therapist Don Kwok and Hmong-American filmmaker and social justice advocate Jeremy Tao come in.
So something's happening, and something's happening where people are suffering silently.
I've really made it an effort to really amplify voices and stories and narratives from underrepresented peoples.
I wanted a space like this for myself, essentially, growing up. I wish I could have had people who looked like me.
Don Kwok joined the Rice Clinic right after the 2021 tragic shooting. The space helps the AAPI community unpack their mental health.
Practice itself saw an incredible influx of people. Suddenly we were putting people on wait lists.
For Jeremy Tao, his answer came from disrupting how people view Asians.
Asian American racism is so normalized in our society that there are often moments where people who are not Asian American can see or hear something and not even realize that it's racist.
Tao shared stories of those overshadowed by stereotypes on the big screen, impacting how they're often perceived. He created the short film Walkman, telling an authentic story about a Chinese family's journey to achieve the American dream.
A mentor told me that one of the most effective and immediate ways to combat this violence and hate was to share about our stories and share about our families and to humanize our people.
While he uses a production to tell those authentic stories, Kwok is hearing it directly as a mental health counselor.
Mental health is also an invisible experience. It's not something that it's still something that is working to be recognized.
She says a big step is getting someone to realize it's okay to admit you're not okay.
Admitting that there's something you can't get through by yourself or with the help of family is sort of already a foreign concept to a lot of people.
A foreign concept explored through authentic safe spaces. Don Kwok teaches a kimchi cooking class to foster a sense of community.
I know, it's probably going to be in this space.
So it was just really awesome to explore my family. And
Jeremy Tao says the biggest mistake allies make in trying to understand the needs of one diverse community is comparing them to another minority group.
when it comes to social justice, I think it's just being aware that we are not comparing hardships, not comparing what we're going through, but rather coming together as a collective group making sure like, yo, dude, I hear you, man. But do you mind if I share a little bit about what I've been going through too?
Resiliency is oftentimes weaponized.
Yes.
Strength is weaponized.
Yes.
Like, you shouldn't have never been in positions to ever be that strong.
No one should have had to be that resilient. Those things never should have happened, and no one has to be grateful for terrible things that have happened to them just because it helped them become stronger.
What can people do to be better allies, to create that sense of community that the AAPI community deserves and has deserved all along?
I think one of the most immediate ways that you can really reevaluate how you're being an ally is to look at the people you surround yourself with. Are you around BIPOC when you have to be?
Where do we begin? A simple question. A good starting point?
The fact that you're even considering therapy is such a huge step. Even considering that you need help and that you're deserving of help is such a big deal.
Stop Asian hate! Stop Asian hate!
Now, we want to take a moment to recognize everyone who tragically lost their lives in the Metro Atlanta spa shootings. After the break, 11 Alive anchor Jonathan Martin leads a panel discussion as he speaks with members of Metro Atlanta's AAPI community. What is AAPI Heritage Month and how did it become recognized as a month-long celebration? Well, in 1977, a legislation was introduced calling for a week-long observance called Asian Pacific American Heritage Week. A year later, in 1978, President Jimmy Carter signed it into law, making it an annual event. And in 1990, the observance was extended from just the first week of May to then the entire month. And in 2021, the month was expanded to Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, honoring the contributions and variety of different cultures. To truly understand what this means to our local AAPI communities, we now go to 11 Alive anchor Jonathan Martin with a panel discussion on identity through the lens of lived experiences.
All right, let's kick off our panel today with our discussion. We have a lineup of guests in studio to discuss AAPI and the diversities within AAPI culture. So our panelists here today, we have Rayanne Williams, an adoptee, a Korean American who creates Korean language meetups in Atlanta to foster a sense of community. Also, Justin Rodriguez, a Laotian Mexican and also a leader within the Laotian American Society. Dr. Anar Parikh is South Asian and also works at the organization Asian Americans Advancing Justice. Tai Nguyen is a Vietnamese-Filipino public health researcher, and Victoria Register, a proud member, proud of their Chinese culture, and works as a nurse and community organizer. Thank you all for being here today with us. All right, so we all know what AAPI stands for, but what does AAPI mean to you? And perhaps most importantly, is that how you identify?
To me, it's such a diverse community. If we were anywhere outside of like white-centric culture, we would not be grouped together.
I definitely do try to find the balance of representing my Laotian heritage with also being Mexican American as well, and trying to find the balance on everything that I do.
So I think for me personally, it's very heavy on both the Asian and the American piece because I'm a Chinese adoptee. So a large part of my identity is being in like a gray area, being in the middle of both Chinese as well as very like culturally American as well.
Depending on where you are, specifically where I grew up in California, I really was immersed in a place where being Asian or Asian American was the homogenous structure.
And speaking of being a minority, sometimes you're often reminded living here in America, people may ask you, where are you from? And they insinuate or assume that you're not American. Does that bother you, and how do you respond?
So I have experience in the healthcare field in my background. They would say things along the lines of, oh, like you people are the reason why this pandemic is here, and just really outlandish things relating like Asian people to the pandemic that was happening. And I think that's just further motivated me to like push for advocacy and awareness.
What do you all think is something that people misunderstand about your community and your culture?
I think another thing that's difficult for people who aren't from an AAPI space to wrap their head around is generational happiness and generational responsibility. So ingrained in me and many of my friends is the idea of like how will your parents react.
My parents worked really hard to undo some of the pressures that were put upon them and really allow my sibling and I to kind of explore the lives that we wanted.
For each of you, how do you carry your culture and how do you keep it alive?
I keep it alive by trying to learn the language, going to visit. I've been to Korea 5 times now.
Honoring my identity as a Chinese American adoptee. I think that involves holding a lot of grace and like patience with myself.
For me, I think I've had a very privileged upbringing coming from the community that I grew up in that had a very large population of Laotians that were really building an infrastructure of a community and setting roots here, and I got to really experience that.
It starts with my introduction. I'm Thai, I'm Filipino, and I'm Vietnamese. That really sets the tone for bypassing I'm Asian American, but really honing in on my specific individual identity.
And you are all doing it by being here with us today. You're honoring your culture. So thank you so much for sharing your story, your culture, your experiences. And I know I learned a lot, and I know our viewers did as well. So thank you so much.
Coming up, we take a look at voting and civic participation in Atlanta's AAPI communities. Welcome back to a special edition of Voices for Equality, Greater Together, as we celebrate AAPI Heritage Month throughout the month of May. Asian Americans are the fastest growing group of eligible voters in the U.S., according to Pew Research. And advocacy groups say voter interest needs to be accommodated with cultural inclusivity. 11 Alive's Joe Ripley speaks with changemakers who are working to make sure everyone can exercise their right to vote.
Michelle Au is a change maker, on and off the clock.
My day job, when I'm not working here, is I'm a practicing physician. A lot of the problems that bring your patients to your care are really outside your ability to fix by the time they get to you.
The anesthesiologist decided the golden fix could come step by step through the Georgia State Legislature. Michelle Au represents Johns Creek in Fulton County.
This is really the epicenter of where Georgia's changing.
Asian Americans are driving a lot of that diversity. Au says they make up nearly 5% of Georgia's population. According to Asian Americans Advancing Justice, the Peach State's immigrant population doubled between 2000 and 2019. But when it comes to exercising the right to vote,
the stereotype is that Asian people don't tend to turn out to vote. Asian people don't really care about voting. It's not worth it to reach out to Asian voters because there's so few of them. All those things are changing.
It shouldn't be a partisan issue. You know, everybody should want safe, secure voting that's accessible to every eligible voter.
Cam Ashling is the chair of the Asian American Action Fund, Georgia chapter. She and her family fled Vietnam as political refugees in the 80s. Now Ashling's advocating for those who speak her language, issues like healthcare and small businesses that bind Asian communities together, and candidates who support them.
Nobody can represent you better than somebody who understands your culture, who understands your challenges, who understands language barriers that we have in our community.
Ashling says AAPI voters rely on drop boxes and absentee voting.
They are limited English voters and they want to vote. It's harder for them to drive to the polls and to get intimidated by the voting process.
One solution could lie in Gwinnett County.
So currently we are only exploring the options of the sample ballots, promotional material, wayfinding signs, and voter educational material.
The county rolled out the Language Equity Initiative in 2021 with a focus on Korean, Mandarin, Cantonese, and Vietnamese.
We have seen some increase in voter registration turnout in the Asian communities, yes.
Language access comes at a price. Hundreds of thousands of dollars cover the extra staffing and cost to make the multilingual election materials. Not every municipality can foot a bill like this, but Gwinnett makes it a priority.
We want to make sure that everyone is able to express their voice and that they're heard.
Representative Al says turning out more AAPI voters starts with meeting them where they are and walking them through the process and reminding them their voice matters at the ballot box.
Showing them this is why it's important for you. This is the difference it makes.
Language is a way to understand one another, and for some, it's a way to stay close to their culture. 11 Alive's Caitlin Ross visits a treasured bookstore in Atlanta's Chinatown that is helping people write a new chapter in finding common ground in a new city that they call home.
Tucked away in Chamblee, Georgia, there is a window between worlds.
In this busy paces life, need to slow down a little bit.
Visitors of Atlanta Chinatown see a welcoming culture inviting them to join.
Warm, comfortable, relaxed.
At Maumi Bookstore, all you have to do is walk through the doors.
This bookstore is totally different than other regular bookstore.
If the eyes are the window to the soul,
traveling and cooking book,
Yvonne Ho believes books are the windows to the world.
When you touch the book, it's totally different. It's just like you open the window, you will find something beautiful.
Readers can see themselves reflected on the page.
It's important you understand. If you go to the new place, you have to understand the new culture.
Maumi is one of the only Chinese bookstores in the Southeast.
Maumi means cat. So this is talking about the cat.
Books translated to readers' native languages.
So this is tree, but 2, it's the woods, and 3, it's forest.
Building a bridge to understanding.
Yes, because they touch something familiar.
The current events at Maumi are just as important as the children's books.
A lot of parents, our grandparents, they don't understand English that well, so they can share what their grandchildren's learning about.
A bridge between cultures and generations.
Like mother and daughter do cooking together.
For Yvonne, being together is the point.
You can move your brush this way.
Maumi hosts calligraphy classes and Chinese tea ceremonies.
I feel like I am a bridge between a lot of people.
The store welcoming people of all cultures to open a new world of possibilities.
By reading, you can find yourself.
A world she is opening for herself.
It's not easy to run a bookstore. Every day I tell myself, be brave. Step by step, go forward.
Right after the break, exploring the arts and shattering stereotypes by carving out unique lanes. The arts can include anything from music, film, painting, and so many different artistic expressions. We want to introduce you to 2 young women in Atlanta. Paige Yang has danced on the biggest stages as an accomplished dancer and choreographer, and Chika Takai is the talented DJ for the Atlanta Hawks during game days, making a name for herself while remaining authentically herself. 11 Alive's Karis Belger sat down with both to bring you this story.
My name is Paige Yang. I am Hmong American. I'm born to an immigrant family. My first memory is learning Oops, I Did It Again, the choreography from Britney Spears' Oops, I Did It Again music video. I just never stopped dancing.
My name is Chika Takai, and I am originally from Tokyo, Japan. I came here, 1, for music, 2, for these people. Music-wise, this is a capital city of hip-hop. When I listen to those ATL music and also see all the entertainer in ATL, I knew that I needed to move to here.
In hip-hop, you are encouraged to be yourself. You're encouraged to strive for freedom, to strive past your limits. I think that's why I fell in love with dance so much, is because it gave me a voice when I was encouraged to be the opposite.
It was not easy. When I got into the club, first impression that all the crowd gave me was what that little Asian girl is about to do. And of course it's ATL, so we have to do slug surfing, right? and knock if your book, right? All the good stuff. I was like, I got you guys. No worry. This little Asian girl can do something.
I think my game-changing one was Nikki. That one was crazy. I want them to feel authenticity. I want them to feel honesty. I want them to feel seen. I want them to also feel like their stories matter.
You know, we have terms, Japanese term, that expressing about finding your purpose in your life. And we call this ikigai. And this is always in my heart, you know, finding your purpose and help each other.
Thank you for joining us for this special edition of Voices for Equality. AAPI Heritage Month is the month of May, but AAPI Voices matter year-round. Let's celebrate and uplift each other as a community and find ways to be greater together. We'll see you next time.